Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard
Colin Richardson.
obviously, we have covered other sports than just NFL and college football. Done a little bit of MLB talk last year, did some NBA talk to start the season this year. But I am a huge college basketball fan, and I've followed college basketball my whole life. So obviously, March rolls around. It is a very, very fun time of year. And the brackets always have got me excited. It's like Christmas for me to go in and make my brackets. So, what me and Colin are going to do today is we're going to take a look at each of these games, kind of give you guys what we think is going to happen in the tournament, give you each region that who we think goes into the Final Four, and then we'll pick our champions. So, maybe throughout the tournament, in between, first round into the Sweet 16, into the Final Four, we'll break down the games or talk about the games and just see if we made our right picks. Come back to this video and just kind of check out the picks we made. But we'll start it off here with in a nice and easy entrance to the East bracket. Colin, I'll go ahead and rip off my East region first, and then we'll get to yours. Starting here at the top, don't like Duke at all, but Siena has no chance in this game. I will say Siena probably deserve to be a 15 seed. They are a good team when it comes to 16, but they have no chance against Duke here. Duke obviously has their own injuries, and we'll talk about those more when they get into a closer matchup. Moving on to this next one here, 8-9, Ohio State versus TCU. Could be one of the most fun games of the first weekend. Always the 8-9 matchup's going to be really, really close. Those teams should be evenly matched, but to me, Ohio State comes rolling into this very hot. They have won a lot of games, got themselves well off the bubble. They were a bubble team just a couple weeks ago. Now you see them as an 8 seed. So really like Ohio State to move on here. Bruce Thornton, that's the name to watch out for. All-time leading scorer in Ohio State basketball history, playing in his first ever March Madness tournament game. So really excited to see what he can do. Moving on to this next one. Give me the St. John's Red Storm. I think that the way they just ran through that Big East tournament and then dominated UConn in the championship game, maybe even should have got them a higher seed than a 5. I don't even think Northern Iowa was a bad team. They play a really high pace, but St. John's is just a little bit too talented in my opinion. Zuby Ejiofor, of course, the player to look out for there. 4-13, Kansas, California Baptist. They're not a horrible team at all. Cal Baptist could come in here and give them a challenge, but Kansas has so much talent. And if Darren Peterson is playing 30 plus minutes a night, I don't think Cal Baptist has anybody that can stop that. So give me Kansas. This is probably one of the most fun upset picks in our brackets here is Louisville, South Florida. This Louisville team, of course, just got the news they are going to be without Michael Brown, playing in a very, very tightly contested game with USF already, and now you're missing your star point guard, future NBA player. So I'm going to take the upset here. I'm going to go with the 11 over the 6. That is the most common upset amongst the double-digit seeds over single-digit seeds. And actually, 11s have beat 6s more than 6s have beat 11s for about 8 brackets straight. So 52% of the time you get those 11s winning. I'm going to take South Florida to do that. Michigan State, really good athletic team, defense oriented. They just don't really worry me too much against North Dakota State. And then this next one here, UCLA, UCF. This could be a really fun game. UCLA down 2 players potentially, Tyler Bilodeau, and then of course Donovan Dent, who is the star transfer guard. If those guys aren't playing, then UCF would probably be the favorite here. But UCLA, I expect those guys to play, and man, they looked so good in the Big Ten tournament. So give me UCLA to win it there. And then, of course, easy pick here, 2 over 15, UConn over Furman. Will say Furman, very big team, one of the top 5 biggest teams in the country when it comes to just size of the roster. They could give them a couple fits here in the first half, but UConn will run through that game relatively easy. Rolling back up to the top here, Duke, Ohio State. There's not much to say. I'm going to take Duke here. I don't like them, like I said before, but Ohio State does not have the players to contend with that Duke team. They are just way too talented. I think Duke will run through there quite simple and move on to that next round. St. John's, Kansas. This could be a really fun game. One of those first weekend, games that maybe everybody's tuning into because of the talent on the court. I've really gone back and forth with this one. I think it's really difficult to pick, but I just like that St. John's is as hot as they are right now. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take their defense. I'm going to take Patino in the tournament. He's a great coach. I think he gets it done here. But Kansas, Darren Peterson, anything can happen. The guy's getting comparisons to Kobe Bryant. So if you have that level of talent on your team, you could beat anybody. Yeah, literally anybody. But I'm going to take St. John's. USF, I think they're really good. I think if an 11 can press a 3, they could do it. They are very, very talented. Michigan State is just a little bit too good. And don't take games against Tom Izzo in March. Tom Izzo in March is a special thing. He's a very good coach. He takes teams no matter where they're at and wins. So give me Michigan State to beat USF. And a rather chalky 1-2-3 so far. This is the one that's a toss-up to me. If Tyler Bilodeau and Donovan Dent are healthy and ready to go, I think UCLA can beat this UConn team, and I think the way that UConn finished the season was very worrying. They have a coach that can win them any game because he is a very, very good coach. And this will be a battle of two coaches that hate the referees. Mick Cronin and Dan Hurley will be yelling at the refs the entire game. They're going to hate them by the end of it, but I'm actually going to take the upset here. I'm going to take UCLA. I think the way that they rolled through that Big Ten tournament and then got injuries and still hung around with Purdue, who went on to win the whole thing, so impressive to me. So give me UCLA to make a little bit of a run here in the East bracket. Then by this point, Duke is going to be fully healthy, other than Caleb Foster, who could return for that Final Four, but don't expect him before that. I still think they're better than St. John's. I'll take them to win that game. And then Michigan State, UCLA could be a really fun matchup. Again, UCLA played very good against Michigan State in their last matchup, but again, I'm going to take Tom Izzo in March. I'm going to have him moving on to play Duke in that Elite Eight matchup, where I think that's where Duke's run stops. I am going to have them losing here. I think Caleb Foster is that important of a piece that without the starting point guard, unless Caden Boozer can produce exactly what he did in the ACC tournament, I think that they will run into somebody who beats them. And the reason that I have them losing here is this path is just so tough. Ohio State, again, one of the hottest teams in the country, could give them some big threats in that game. St. John's, who without a healthy Patrick Ngungba could be a very scary team with Zubi Ejiofor. But again, I just think they're going to run out of smoke. I think they're going to run out here, and I think Michigan State will be a little happier with the route they have to get here. Give me Michigan State to be the team out of the East region to advance to the Final Four. Colin, going to throw it over to you now. Give me who you got in the East region here.
Yeah, so Duke versus Siena, I've got Duke as well. I don't really think Siena has much of a shot in this one. Moving on to Ohio State and TCU, I'm going to go with TCU here. I like the Big 12. I think that this is probably the best conference in
Yeah,
basketball this year, in my opinion. I know some people would probably say the SEC, but I think the Big 12 has some really impressive teams this year. So the fact that they were able to go 11-6 in conference play in a really tough Big 12 is impressive. So I'm gonna go TCU here. And then moving on to the next one, I'm gonna go with St. John's. I know they've got a really good coach. I don't know too much about Northern Iowa,
yeah.
but I know St. John's coaching and they've got some talent. So I'm gonna go with them here. And then moving on to Kansas and Cal Baptist, I'm gonna go Kansas in this one. I don't know too much about Cal Baptist, but I know Kansas has some real good talent. So I'm gonna go with the talent over there at Kansas, and then Louisville and South Florida. I'm gonna go with the upset. It's with South Florida. Like you said, Louisville's been dealing with some injuries, and I don't know how tough ACC was this year as well. So I'm gonna go with South Florida in that one. And then moving on to the next one, Michigan State versus North Dakota State. Like you said, I don't know how you can go against Tom Izzo in March, so I'm gonna go Michigan State here. UCF versus UCLA. I'm gonna go with UCF in this one. Like I said, I really like the Big 12 of this year. I think they had a really strong conference,
Yep.
so I'm gonna go with them just because they're a Big 12 team over a Big 10 team here. And then last here, UConn and Furman. I'm gonna go UConn. Not too much to say about that one.
No, that's a pretty easy pick. Rolling
Yeah.
back up here to the top, Duke TCU.
Yeah, Duke TCU, I'm gonna go with Duke. I think Duke is a super talented team this year, so I'm gonna go with the talent there over TCU. And then St. John's in Kansas. I'm actually gonna go with St. John's here. Um, like I said, I really love St. John's coach. He's been able to turn around that program when he took over. They were in a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
They'd been pretty good in the past, but whenever he took over, they were not in a great spot, and he's turned it around really quick at St. John's. So, and he was able to do the same at Louisville. He has plenty of tournament experience. So. I'm gonna go St. John's there, and then moving on to the next one, Michigan State and South Florida. I'm gonna go Michigan State. You could see South Florida maybe make a push, but I don't know that they can get past Tom Izzo, like you said.
Yeah.
And then UCF and UConn. I'm gonna go UConn. And then Duke St. John's. I'm gonna go with Duke here. Like I said, Duke is a super talented team. I've watched them play a couple games this year. The Boozer kid is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Duke here, and then Michigan State and UConn. I really like Hurley as a coach, so I'm gonna go UConn in this one. Like you said, they have struggled down the stretch, but I do like them to win here.
Yeah, and like you said, you bet on him as a coach, like you would bet on Izzo or any of the other top coaches. Before I let you make this final pick here to give your Final Four team, if you just look at this bracket or this East region, this is the region of coaches. You're talking about Shire at Duke, who's had an incredible start to his career. Kansas, of course, Bill Self. St. John's with Rick Pitino. Michigan State has Tom Izzo. And then Dan Hurley down there at UConn. That's five guys that have a path to the Hall of Fame. Of course, Shire way too early to determine if he will do that or not. But the other guys, I'd say they're pretty well on their way to being Hall of Fame coaches. So really good, strong coaching region. And I think that we've kind of both showed that with where we've had a lot of these teams end up at with their coaches. You got Duke, UConn. Who you going to have moving to the Final Four here out of the East?
Yeah, I've got UConn winning this one. That's actually in my bracket. That's who I chose to win. So
Yeah.
I really like Hurley as a coach. Like I said, Shire, he's kind of struggled in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I think last year they lost to Houston there, and I'm not positive about the past, but they've had some really talented teams that just were not able to get the job done, and I could see that happening again here against UConn.
Yep, and like you said, Hurley has the experience of playing and winning national championships. Shire doesn't have it yet. And again, that slip up last year against Houston that you're talking about was an all-time blown lead in the last minute of the game to lose an 8 to 9 point lead. It shows that there's some inconsistencies there. And again, young guy can get better as a coach, but as of now, I would have to agree with you that I think Hurley or Izzo, both who I had there, would be just higher level coaches at this point in their careers. Looking at the East region overall, there. Of course, we both have St. John's playing Duke. We both have Michigan State advancing pretty deep in it. We both had Duke playing in the Elite Eight matchup against either UConn or Michigan State. So obviously, we both think that Duke is going to end up being in the Elite Eight with just different opponents playing them there. And then both of us have them losing there. And I think that is the repercussion of the injury to Caleb Foster and him potentially not playing at all until the Final Four would be a huge loss for a team that doesn't go too deep on their bench. They don't have a lot of depth, which is unusual for a Duke team that usually has a lot of five-star depth on the bench. I think when they lost five guys to the NBA last year, that's what happens. You lose a little bit of your depth, and they don't have as much money to hand to transfers because they're getting the biggest recruits in the country to come in. But overall, really good region. Again, like I said, the region of the coaches. Colin, if you're just looking at every team here, is there anybody there you think just has like a Cinderella run potential? And who do you think that is, if there's anybody there?
Yeah, I could see UCF making a little bit of a run. Like I said, the Big 12 was super tough this year, so they
Yeah.
played some really good competition, and they were able to hold their own in the Big 12. So I could see them if they could get past UCLA, and then they've got a really tough one, probably UConn coming up
Yeah.
next. But if they're able to get through those two, I mean, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, and if you catch them, you catch UConn when they're cold, they are very beatable. They have shown that losing by 20 plus points to St. John's. I'm actually going to go from the exact same quadrant, and it's not necessarily a Cinderella if UCLA wins two games, but I think there's a world where UCLA could be playing Duke in the Elite Eight. I think if they're healthy enough, that's the big question mark. If they get unhealthy and they're not able to go, then they don't have Cinderella potential because you need those guys to make that run. But to me, if they were able to make this crazy run to the Elite Eight, that would be a Cinderella. A seven seed doing that would be pretty uncommon. But to me, there's probably four teams from this entire region that I think can actually advance to the Final Four, and to me, that's going to be Duke, Michigan State, UConn, and then of course I have to say St. John's with Patino and his ability to coach. I just don't trust Kansas with how much Darren Peterson has missed time so far this season. We'll roll on into the next region here. We'll go up into our top right region, into the West. Obviously, starting at the top, it is the 1 versus the 16. I will lead us off here again with my bracket. I'm going to go easy, Arizona over Long Island. LIU, fins up, fun team, but they have no chance in this game. Arizona might be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. Villanova, Utah State. I don't trust how weak the Big East was this year. Now, the Mountain West wasn't much better. They are only going to have one bid this year, which is very rare for that conference. But Utah State does have former Virginia Tech Hokie MJ Collins leading them in scoring and had a 42-point game earlier this season. So Give me the former Hokie to go ahead and get a win. The only Hokie representation in March Madness. Moving on to the 5-12 here, a very, very high-paced game. This should be a very high-scoring game. Maybe we get 100 on both sides. High Point is going to chuck a ton of threes. They're going to want to score the ball, but I just think Wisconsin is too good. They have shown me time and time again that they can win big games this year. So I'm going to go Wisconsin, but I think High Point is a great 12 seed that could give them a good match. Arkansas, Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I think that they could have beat other four seeds, but they like to play one-on-one, no-help defense. Do you know who thrives on one-on-one, no-help defense? Darius Acuff Jr. He is going to eat that defense alive. Give me a 30-point game against Hawaii whenever he's setting those ball screens and just rolling off and hitting deep twos or three-pointers because he can shoot from wherever he wants. Guard play wins in March. Give me Acuff to move on. BYU, Texas. This could be a fun one. I think if NC State was able to beat Texas, their three-point shooting could have lit them on fire and got them farther in the tournament. But I just trust BYU over Texas. I think DeBansta, being one of the best scorers in the entire country, is going to get it done here against Texas. Moving on to our 3-14, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. The Zags are moving on pretty easy here. Kennesaw State went on a crazy run in their tournament, got it done and won it, but they were not having a good season prior to that. Don't see the Zags dropping a game that early. And actually, over the last 10 seasons, Mark Few has had the Bulldogs in the Sweet 16 9 of 10 years. Last year being the only season that didn't happen. So he's going to get them there, or at least get them through the first round. Miami, Missouri. I'm an ACC guy, of course, teams that I enjoy watching play there. And I think Miami has shown that they can do things in March, especially with the guard play they had from Trey Donaldson. So give me Miami to beat Missouri. Missouri not too hot to finish the season. I think 5-5 over the last 10. And then Purdue easily advances over Queens. Congratulations to Queens for their first year of eligibility to get into the tournament. They got in. Not a fun matchup having to play Purdue and Matt Painter, who's only gotten better as a coach as the years have gone on. Rolling back up to the top here, Arizona moves on pretty easily past Utah State. I think they're a good team, but Arizona is loaded this year. This is probably one of the most fun games of the tournament if we get it, and that is 5 versus 4, Wisconsin versus Arkansas. Wisconsin has had an incredible season. Nick Boyd, he could give you 30 in this game, but I think Darius Acuff can give me 40. So give me Darius Acuff, give me the guard play, give me Calipari, who has done this before in the tournament with really good young players. I think Arkansas moves on past Wisconsin. Here's where I'm going to have my upset. BYU playing Gonzaga. Give me DeBasta to just drop a crazy game, go out and score wherever he wants, do whatever he wants, and gets BYU to that Sweet 16. Again, it would be crazy for Mark Few to miss the Sweet 16 2 years in a row, but I just think the Zags have had a couple games this year where they slip up and don't play as good. They just lost to St. Mary's at the end of the WCC regular season, and of course you watched them play against Michigan earlier in the year when they lost by 40. There is ways for this team to get beat. I think a high-scoring guard or a high-scoring forward like DeBansta could certainly do that. And then Miami, Purdue. I think Miami can actually play with this team a little bit. Ernest Uday is a really good athletic center that can maybe keep up with the big men of Purdue. But man, Braden Smith, he's going in this tournament to break Bobby Hurley's all-time assist record in college basketball. He's going to do it in the first game, but I think he's going to keep on rolling and get hot. Give me Purdue to advance to play BYU. After that, Arizona, Arkansas. This is maybe a crazy take. This is one that I want to do for fun for the video, but because I also don't want to go super chalky, I'm going to go Arkansas over Arizona. Arkansas, of course, Calipari has won in March, like I said before, and I think that he can do it again this time around with the guard play that he has. I mean, again, Darius Acuff, unbelievably talented. They have other guys on that team that are great. Malik Thomas has been great this season. Trayvon Brazile, of course, returns to the team when Calipari shows up to coach last year, and he's the senior leadership. I think that this team is good enough to do it, and if Acuff has his night, I think they can beat Arizona. Moving down to the bottom half here, Purdue, BYU. Give me Purdue. That run in the Big Ten tournament was incredible. They looked like a team that can compete and get to Indianapolis, which, of course, if you know where Purdue is located, just so happens to be in the state of Indiana. So it would be really cool if they were able to play in that Final Four in their home state. And give me them doing that. Give me the Purdue Boilermakers to beat Calipari, beat Acuff, and just have this group of seniors that are all leaders. Trey Kaufman-Renn, of course, they bring in a big name in Oscar Clough to get the rebounds and to be the big man in the paint. And Braden Smith on this run that he's having with Fletcher Loyer out there sniping threes. I just think this team is too good to lose to an Arkansas team that is freshman-led. That is usually a recipe for failure in the tournament. So give me Purdue to move to the Final Four. Colin? Diving back into this West region, of course, I'll let you start at the top. Arizona and Long Island going against each other.
Yep, I'm gonna go with Arizona here. Pretty easy
Yeah,
with this pick. Arizona's obviously one of the best teams in the country, and Long Island is just I don't see him pulling off any upset here.
no,
And then moving on to the next one, I've actually watched a little bit of Villanova, and they've kind of been struggling as of late. They've been dealing with a little bit of injury, so I'm gonna go with Utah State in this one. And then moving on to the next one, Wisconsin and High Point. I'm actually going to go with High Point.
yeah,
Like you said, they have some really good three-point shooters, and if there's anything that can cause an upset in March, it's definitely the three-point shooting. All it takes is those guys get hot, and it's in Wisconsin. It could be over for them.
yep,
And then moving on to Arkansas and Hawaii, I'm gonna go with Hawaii in this one. If there's anything that got Calipari fired from Kentucky, it was losing in the first round
yep,
against teams that he should not have lost to, and I could see that getting him here again with a new team. But I'm gonna go Hawaii there. And then BYU and Texas. Like I said, I really like the Big 12 this year, so I'm gonna go BYU in this one. And then Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. I'm gonna go Gonzaga here. Like you said, he's made the Sweet 16 9 out of 10 years. That's incredible. So I'm gonna go Gonzaga there. And then Miami and Missouri. I'm gonna go Miami. They had a really good year this year in the ACC.
yeah,
Maybe not the toughest of conferences this year, the ACC, but there's definitely some really good teams in there, and
yeah.
they were able to hold their own against most teams. So I'm gonna go Miami here, and then Purdue. I got them beating Queens.
Yep, and going back up here to the top, Arizona, Utah State.
Yep. I think Arizona is a one of the best teams in the country, so I'm gonna go Arizona with this one, and then the 12 and 13 playing here.
Yep,
I'm gonna go High Point. I think they continue to roll off that hot three-point shooting and able to make it into the Sweet 16. And then BYU Gonzaga. I'm gonna go Gonzaga here. Like you said, he's made the Sweet 16
yep,
9 out of 10 times in the past 10 years. So I'm gonna get that trend continuing, going with Gonzaga. And then Miami and Purdue. I'm gonna go Purdue. Purdue had a really good Big Ten tournament. They're coming in hot, able to beat Michigan, who is another really, really good team. So I'm gonna go Purdue there. And then Arizona and High Point. I think this is where the Cinderella story ends for High Point. So I'm gonna go Arizona here, and then Gonzaga and Purdue. I'm gonna go Purdue. Like I said, they coming in super hot, just beating Michigan. And then the last pick, I'm gonna go with Arizona. I think that this team is super, super talented. Obviously, they're coming into the tournament super hot. I mean, they've been hot all season, only
yeah.
losing 2 games. So I like Arizona here.
Yeah, and of course those two games were back to back. I mean, it was they were undefeated, running out playing 20 plus win season they had going, and then they just dropped two games and then they figured it out again, and they haven't lost since. So yeah, Arizona's plenty good enough to be in a championship game. And I really heavily thought about having them there. I just like that Arkansas matchup. I like the potential for Acuff, and if Calipari can tap back into his old success, I think that's a possibility. Obviously. Really don't need to ask you if you have your Cinderella team. You showed
Yeah.
us yours. That is High Point making that run. Absolutely, it would be really fun to see a double-digit seed do that yet again. For me, I do think the most Cinderella run potential could also very well come from that quadrant. I think that High Point, if they have a high enough scoring offense, the ability for them to make a run like that is very possible. And if they get a favorable matchup with Hawaii ending up there, I think they're very well the team that could be the Cinderella run team. So I'm going to agree with you and say that if High Point beats Wisconsin, I could see that run take place, them end up in that Sweet 16, which is certainly a Cinderella run for a double-digit seed. I think that quadrant of games right there could be the most fun games to tune into, though, for the first weekend of the tournament. We'll roll down onto the bottom part of our bracket here, of course. I'll roll back over onto mine and start off with South region matchup between Florida and Prairie View A&M, who just locked in their bid to play against Florida. That is not the best reward ever to have to match up against the Florida team that is just going to outsize you. They have plenty of big men that are dominant. I think they take that one easy. Clemson and Iowa, I think that Clemson The way they finish the season worries me a lot when they go into this matchup. Iowa has 3-point shooting that, like you said, with High Point, if 3-point shooting gets hot, it can win in March. I think Bennett Sturt's a phenomenal player that will be in the NBA certainly this next season. So give me Iowa to go in here and get a win over Clemson. I've gone back and forth with that one a ton though. It is a very tough matchup to pick. And then Vanderbilt McNeese. Everybody's going to remember McNeese because of course Will Wade had them as a very good team, an upset team last year. He did a great job coaching there, but I don't think that this is the same McNeese team. I'm going to take Vanderbilt. It's been a very hard year to pick 12s, and usually 12 versus 5 is a fun upset. That's one that happens. But the 5s, man, they seem to be very good this year. I think I'm just going to have to take them 4-13. This is a fun one because Nebraska is the only power school that has never won a tournament game. They have, in their long career of playing basketball, never got it done. And I think that they were on a run. They were playing some really good basketball. They were a top 10 team. And then they hit a little bit of a skid and started playing not so good. They are obviously a 4 seed for a reason. They've won big games this year. But I'm going to continue the trend of Nebraska never winning a tournament game. I'm going to take Troy here. You're going to call me crazy, a 13 over a 4, but Troy is a very good 13. They are a team that can force a lot of turnovers. They're a team that can get after Nebraska, and I just think that the way that Troy finished the season, red hot, and the opposite of the effect of Nebraska finishing the year, just not so pretty. Losing in the Big Ten tournament, it wasn't a good sight for them there. And I just think they're going to get upset by the Troy team, of course, coming in here hot. Moving on to this 6-11 matchup, North Carolina versus VCU. Of course, the storyline there for UNC is no Caleb Wilson. He's not been available for the last couple weeks of the season, and without him, they're certainly not a team that can compete for a national championship. But they have had some games playing without him. I think the experience of not having him on the court has actually been a big deal because a guy like Henry Vessar or some of the other guys on that Carolina team have been able to take over and lead them a little bit, and that's helped them step up to play. They are a senior-led team with Seth Trimble in the starting lineup, like I said, with a Henry Vessar, a junior. I think that they are going to get done against VCU, but that is a very scary team that could take them down in the first round. Do think it's an okay draw, though, for Carolina. Again, they have the bigs to match up with like a Lazar Djokovic, which, of course, plays for VCU. I think just the senior leadership will get it done there, but should be a tight one. Illinois Penn, if any 14 seed could do it, maybe TJ Power, who dropped 44 points in the Ivy League championship, could be the one to lead them to a victory, but Illinois is just going to score way too many points. I don't see Penn having a chance there. St. Mary's, Texas A&M. This should be a fun one. St. Mary's is a team that has two 7-foot big men that will rebound over anybody in the country. And they grab 10-plus boards a night from both of them. I expect that will be a big point in this game. And I think I'm just going to take St. Mary's to be able to control the clock. They like to play slow, and they like to rebound the ball well. Those are two things that in March will help you a lot. Give me St. Mary's. And Houston easily takes it over Idaho. Houston very well could have been a 1 seed this year. Kelvin Sampson has that team rolling. Going back up to the top, Florida, Iowa. Give me Florida pretty easily. Again, the bigs for Iowa just don't stand a chance against that Florida front line. Vanderbilt over Troy. Again, I'm going to take Vandy in that game. I think Troy's run ends right there. Vandy, of course, coming in pretty hot, which finished the SEC season on a really high note, beating the heck out of Florida and getting the matchup against them again is going to be interesting in the Sweet 16. North Carolina versus Illinois. I think Illinois overall offensively is just way too high powered for a team like North Carolina who just doesn't have their superstar in Caleb Wilson available. I think Illinois takes that one. And then St. Mary's Houston. Two teams that are going to play so slow, and they're going to play defensive basketball. But if anybody's better at it than anybody else, and Houston is the best, I'm going to take Houston. They're Kelvin Sampson led. That defense is incredible every year. Think they will do it again in the round of 32 against St. Mary's. Going into the 1v5 matchup, Florida versus Vanderbilt, I think Vandy hit the perfect stride and got that game out of the way with a huge win. I think Florida will be bouncing back and looking to repeat as national champions. And then Illinois-Houston, a battle of two completely different styles of basketball. Illinois, the super high-powered offense that's going to try to score as many points as possible, and Houston, the defense that can lead them to a national championship. I think that happens here. I think Houston gets it done. I think they beat Illinois. It's going to be a tight one, and I do think it will be more of a low-scoring game if Houston gets it done. I think that's what happens there. And then we get Florida versus Houston, a matchup that everybody thinks is two of the best teams in the country, two of the top 5 teams more than likely. I think that Florida has had a really good run. I think they can repeat as champions. I think their rebounding is a really big talking point. But I'm going to take Houston here. I'm going to take that the ability of the defense, that Kelvin Sampson can get them back to a big primetime showing in the Final Four. I think that he had a chance last year to win a national championship and slipped up and didn't do it. He's going to have to do it soon. So give me Houston advancing to the Final Four. But again, one versus two, anything can happen. I think Florida's definitely good enough to end up there. Colin, going over into your bracket, of course, starting at the top, Florida versus Prairie View.
Yep. So I got Florida winning this one pretty easily.
Yeah.
There's another really, really good team, so I don't really think Prairie View stands too much of a chance in that one. And then I got Clemson beating Iowa in this one. Like you said, that's a really tough matchup, but Clemson's been known to make some runs once
Yep.
they make it to the tournament, so I've got them winning there. And then Vanderbilt and McNeese. I'm gonna go Vanderbilt here. I know, like I said, McNeese was able to make a pretty good run last year, but I just don't see it this year. Vanderbilt's coming in pretty hot. So, and then moving on to Nebraska and Troy, I'm gonna go Nebraska here. And then, so I've watched one game of VCU this year, and they absolutely walloped Virginia Tech. And like you said, North Carolina's out one of their best players. So I'm gonna go with the upset here with VCU. Like I said, I'm going off one game here, and it was an ugly one. So, and then Illinois and Penn, I'm gonna go with the upset here as well. I got Penn winning that one. I think, like I said, the high scoring offense, I think can get the upset done here. Probably the only 14 and three that I like to for the upset in this
Yep.
tournament. So I'm gonna go with it there. And then I got Texas A&M here. I just don't think St. Mary has played that great a competition. They've got Gonzaga, but outside of that, they really don't face too
Yeah.
much in that conference. So I'm gonna go with Texas A&M there, playing in a pretty tough SEC. And then last, I've got Idaho. Or sorry, no, I got Houston beating Idaho.
With that one there, I would have said you really picked all the upsets on the bottom half, but you got Houston.
Yeah, not that one.
Not too crazy. All right, back to the top,
Yeah.
one versus eight there.
I've got Florida winning this one. I think Florida's a really good team.
Yep.
And then Vanderbilt and Nebraska. I'm gonna go Vanderbilt here. I think, like you said, they're coming in super hot. Yeah, in a tough SEC. So I'm gonna go Vanderbilt there. And then VCU and Penn. I like VCU here. Like I said, one game I've watched, they were really, really good.
Yeah.
So, and I know they finished the year pretty good as
Yeah.
well. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go VCU, and then here I'm gonna go Houston. I think Houston, they've got a really good coach, and that defense is they'll dog you. So
Yeah.
I got Houston there, and then I've got Florida beating Vanderbilt in an SEC matchup there. So they should be pretty familiar with each other, but I'm gonna go Florida there, and then I'm gonna go Houston here as well. And you've got that Florida Houston matchup again on in this bracket, and I'm gonna go with Houston. Like I said, they're really well coached, and I love that defense that they play. So I'm gonna go Houston there.
Yep, and we have the exact same thing in the Elite Eight matchup there with Todd Golden in Florida going up against Kelvin Sampson in Houston, and we went the exact same way of just Houston's defense, the ability to stop anybody in the country, and they have a bunch of NBA level players on that roster right now. Kelvin Sampson, when it comes to roster retention, does it better than anybody. He has not had a player transfer out of his program in 2 years. That is extremely impressive. The guys want to stay and play for him. I think that's really important, and they have a really good group of guys with some freshmen thrown in with a bunch of seniors and their all-time three-point leader in Emmanuel Sharp. Obviously, you've got the potential for a crazy Cinderella run yet again in this one. Don't need you to really answer the question. Your Cinderella potential is definitely VCU. Ended up there in the Sweet 16. For me, the Cinderella potential could be a Troy team that they make a run because they beat Nebraska, go in to play Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, again, a team that hasn't had a lot of experience in the tournament. Mark Byington is a very good coach, but he hasn't been here a ton with this Vanderbilt squad. They have a couple young guys that lead them. And if anybody could do it, Troy could end up beating Nebraska, beating Vanderbilt, ending up in that Sweet 16 matchup. But for me, that's who I side with as the highest Cinderella potential. But this has a lot of potential to have some upsets. And of course, you down here picking that Penn one over Illinois. 14 seeds don't have a long historic history of upsetting threes, but a team like Penn with a guy that can drop 40 and TJ Power, anything can happen, and that would be really fun if that does happen. Bring back the Cinderella in March last year. It was a little bit chalky. Rolling back over into my bracket here, going into our Midwest region. Going to have Michigan playing Howard in the first round. again, a very simple win for Michigan. Going to get back by them very quick. Georgia playing St. Louis. I love St. Louis. I love Robbie Avila. I love Josh Schertz as a coach. I think they're going to get it done. They got snubbed from the tournament a few years ago. This time they're going to get their win and beat Georgia. Texas Tech playing Akron. This is a 12 that can beat a 5 for sure. Akron has had a very good season. All the metrics point to them being one of the best mid-majors in the entire country. But I think Texas Tech has Christian Anderson. And if Christian Anderson is hot, he's one of the best guards in the entire country. He is an AP All-American. Give me Texas Tech to get it done. With the recent news of what happened with Alabama, I am worried about what they could do coming into this tournament. Aiden Holloway is a very important player. He is one of the most important scorers on this team, and the way they play basketball is scoring tons of points. If your second leading scorer is not there, that removes 15 plus points from your scoring, and if you look over on the other side, Speedy Claxton has a team in Hofstra that has two of the best guards in the country. Give me Hofstra to upset Alabama 13 over 4. I think that distraction that you didn't need before March is going to pop up, and the players are not going to show up ready to go. I think LeBaron Philon is an incredible guard, but I think Hofstra upsets Alabama here 13 over 4. Tennessee playing Miami of Ohio or SMU, a game that is currently going on. I think Tennessee is a little bit better than both of those teams. I actually think SMU would be a better matchup for Tennessee, but I think Miami of Ohio could potentially beat SMU because they've had a lot of big time game situations. So I think Miami of Ohio wins it, then Tennessee beats them, moves on. And then Virginia, Wright State, not going to pull for UVA ever, but 14 Wright State, maybe the best 14 seed. They're a pretty good team for a 14, but Virginia's just way too good this year. Ryan Odom is a phenomenal coach. 7 versus 10, Kentucky versus Santa Clara. This Santa Clara team has produced NBA level players year in and year out. Jalen Williams, of course, coming from Santa Clara. Brandon Podziemski, who plays for the Warriors, coming from Santa Clara. And they have yet another young freshman who could potentially end up in the NBA. They are a high scoring offense. They have the ability to stop Kentucky. They can match up with them athletically. Give me Santa Clara to beat the $22 million Kentucky roster, and man, will Kentucky fans be rioting and if they lose a first-round matchup yet again. They got rid of Calipari to eliminate that, and it may happen again. And then Iowa State, Tennessee State, an easy victory for Iowa State. That is one of my favorite teams in the entire country. I think they get it done here. Moving up to the top of the Midwest region here, I've got Michigan playing St. Louis. Of course, like I said before, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila gets here, but I don't think they can beat Michigan. I think that their size is going to be way too much for this St. Louis team. And if St. Louis gets really hot from three, maybe they could pull off this upset. They are a team that, of course, shoots the three ball really, really well. But I think Michigan is just too good. They're going to get it done here. Texas Tech versus Hofstra. Again, Speedy Claxton, man, he has that Hofstra team looking good. But Texas Tech is just too talented. And I think they would advance past Hofstra there into the Sweet 16. Moving down here, Tennessee, Virginia. Do not like either one of these teams that much. Virginia, they've just looked really good at the end of the year. They went on that little run in the ACC tournament. They gave Duke everything they could handle in the ACC championship game. So I think they are good enough to advance past Tennessee. I think they have the size to stop Tennessee's star player and Nate Ament. Of course, Jacoby Gillespie is a great player for them as well, but I just think Virginia is going to be really well coached. I think they get it done there. Not that Rick Barnes is a bad coach, but Ryan Odom has just done some special things in March Madness in the NCAA tournament. Tennessee just has never made a Final Four. I think that trend will continue. Iowa State versus Santa Clara. Iowa State, like I said before, one of my favorite teams in the entire tournament. Gonna have them advancing past that Santa Clara team, which is very talented, but not good enough to beat Iowa State. Moving back up into the top of the Midwest region, Michigan versus Texas Tech. If Texas Tech had JT Toppin, this would be a different conversation. He is such a good player. He's a big that can match up against the bigs from Michigan, but Michigan is just way too big with a team not having their star big man. Again, an AP All-American first-team guy in JT Toppin averaging 20-plus points, playing the center position better than most. They just don't have that, and I think Michigan will pull off that victory to move to the Elite Eight. On the bottom half here, Virginia versus Iowa State. I've said it time and time again in this video. Iowa State is one of my favorite teams, but I've had Iowa State winning in every single bracket I've built so far. So this one, I'll go Virginia. I'll go with UVA to get to the Elite Eight and play against Michigan. I think if they find the right stride and their big men are blocking shots like they were against Duke, Joshua Jefferson's going to have a tough time scoring inside the paint. And I think Tamin Lipsey and Milan Momcilovic will have a great game. I think they're good players. They're guys that have done it for a long time as well in college. But I think Virginia has the bigs playing out of their minds right now. And the team is talented enough to make this kind of run with Ryan Odom as a coach. I think that is a bright future for them as he's one of the best head coaches in the league. But I made this pick as well to get the Michigan Virginia matchup, where I'm going to go with Michigan with the Wolverines. One seed that is just uber talented. They are one of the best teams in the country, if not the best. Again, I think that they had some slip ups as well. They were not able to pull off that win against Purdue in the Big Ten. That's going to be enough to fuel them to make a run in March. Again, very, very well coached. Big man in Ade Mara, Yaxel Lindenborg, one of the best power forwards in the country. They have Elliot Cadeau leading them, and a guy that's been in the tournament and had some experience there. Just such a deep team that I think that they're able to get it done here, advance to that Final Four. Colin, moving on to your Midwest here. Going to start at the top, Michigan versus Howard.
Yep, I'm gonna go Michigan in this one.
Yep.
I think Michigan is one of the best teams in the country as well, and I just don't think Howard stands much of a chance there. And then moving on, Georgia and St. Louis. I do like St. Louis in this one. I don't love Georgia, and St. Louis has had a really good year. They're in the same conference as VCU, so
Yeah.
I like VCU.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go St. Louis there. And then, like I said, I really do like the Big 12 this year. So I do see Texas Tech winning this one over Akron. I don't see them getting upset there. And I don't like Alabama either, but especially after everything that's came up over the past few days.
Yeah.
But I don't see them getting beat here by Hofstra, so I'm gonna go with Alabama here. And then Tennessee versus Miami, Ohio, or SMU, either one, whoever wins that one. I'm going to go Tennessee here. I do think it's criminal that a 31-1 Miami of Ohio has to get in a play-in game,
Yeah.
but that's for another time. I'm gonna go UVA over Wright State. Yeah, I haven't watched too much of Wright State. I know UVA, like I said, ended the season really well against Duke. Gave them all that they wanted. So I'm gonna go UVA there, and then I'm gonna go Santa Clara here as well. I don't love Kentucky either as a team. I think, and like I said, Santa Clara's had some talent come through there. They're a good team, so I'm gonna go Santa Clara there, and I'm gonna go Iowa State over Tennessee State as well.
Yep. And rolling back up here to the top, Michigan versus St. Louis.
Yeah, like I said, I like St. Louis, but I can't. Michigan's just way too good. I don't see them getting upset there. And then with everything came up with Alabama, I'm gonna go Texas Tech here. Big 12 bias, I guess. I'm typically not a Big 12 fan, but I do like them there. And then I like Tennessee over UVA here. I don't love Tennessee as a team, and UVA did finish the year hot, but I don't know. I'm just feeling Tennessee in this matchup. I could see them winning that one. And then I'm gonna go Iowa State over Santa Clara in that matchup. Not too much else to say about that one. And then I've got Michigan over Texas Tech. I think Michigan is super talented, so I'm gonna keep moving them on. And then I have Iowa State over Tennessee in that matchup. And then moving on to the Final Four, I'm gonna go with Michigan. I just think that they're just too talented of a team to lose to Iowa State here. Like I said, I love the Big 12 this year, but I just have Michigan winning this game.
Yep, absolutely. And I agree with a lot of the things you said there. We have relatively similar brackets. Of course, I did go with the Hofstra upset, but we both have Alabama losing. Hofstra or Alabama, no matter who it is, losing, and Texas Tech ends up going to the same place. So very similar there. On the bottom, of course, I did have Virginia advancing all the way to the Elite Eight, but I am more so on the line of thinking Iowa State's one of the best teams, and I think they would beat Virginia. But I wanted to be a little bit different. I've had a lot of other upsets and other things like that in different brackets, and I think Virginia has a chance to make that kind of run. But as the same way as it goes for Tennessee, Virginia having the defense to stop them. Tennessee also has the players. Nate Ahmed, if he gets hot, can drop 30. And Jacoby Gillespie, of course, with Maryland last year in the Crab Five, had an incredible season. So I think there's a lot of things that can happen. Tennessee can certainly make that kind of run. Looking at it, this is one that neither one of us really had anything crazy. Nobody going to the Sweet 16. If you were to pick a Cinderella type team, who do you think it would be out of this bracket down here?
Yeah, like I said, the game's currently going on. It's a pretty close game, but I could see Miami of Ohio making a run.
Yep.
Like if anything, they've got confidence. They've lost one game all year, and they've played in a ton of close games.
Yep.
So I think that could help them prepare them for March because just about every game is going to be close, and they've won almost all of them. So with the confidence that they should be coming in with this tournament, I'm gonna go with Miami of Ohio. I could see them making a run.
Yep, and I absolutely agree with you. Yet again, I think that is a team. I actually think Miami of Ohio or SMU coming out of that game because there was a trend up until last year that the first four games one of those teams would advance deep in the tournament. It had happened quite a few times. Last year, of course, it didn't. I think that trend, trends repeat themselves, and that is a game right there between two teams playing in that first four. That SMU, of course, if they get BJ Edwards back, he's not playing tonight, but who knows? They said he's going to be healthy. If he plays against Tennessee, it's a 12 point per game scorer coming back for you, and then vice versa with Miami of Ohio. Like you said, they have played in a million close games, and they only lost one of them. They have had stress all year long. There's not going to be any more stress in this game because they were told all year if you lose a game, you're out. So they've been playing elimination games for 32 games. So they've got that stress, the ability to handle it late in the game. They are very clutch. In the final 5 minutes of games, they were shooting over 57% as a team. That's not one player, that's the entire team. So I trust them a lot. If there is anybody that can make a deep run, it is them. And I don't think Virginia would be a crazy bad matchup. Virginia, again, a team that has a brand new coach coming in and a brand new system, and they haven't had recent success in the tournament. And I know it's a different staff and different things could happen, but it wouldn't be the worst draw ever if they ended up playing a Virginia team because they can stretch the floor, shoot the three ball so well that Virginia might not be able to guard it. So I'm in full agreement with you there. Miami of Ohio could be a team that can make a run, and I actually think SMU with a healthy BJ Edwards could do the exact same thing. Getting into our final four, looking at mine first here, I've got Michigan State, Houston, Purdue, and Michigan. Looking at yours, you have UConn, Houston, Arizona, Michigan. We did not go super chalky on either side. You have two one seeds losing. I actually have three one seeds losing. So last year was the super chalk tournament, I guess you could call it. All four one seeds make the final four. And I think there's a world where that could happen again. But also, I think the two seeds got better. I think the injuries with Duke could scare you off of them as well. Losing your starting point guard, no matter how good or bad the rest of your team is, can be a big loss. So we had some things flip flop around. Going into the championship game, I will select my final four teams first. I'm going to go with Houston to get back to the national championship, to have another chance to get it done. Kelvin Sampson, again, to me, one of the best coaches in the entire country, and roster retention and the success they had last year will lead to them having more success in this year's tournament. They've been here, they've done that. There's a lot of players in this roster that are experienced and have the ability to run it back. So give me Kelvin Sampson making it back to the national championship game. And on the other side, I think Purdue, Michigan, we just saw this game. Purdue was able to beat them, but like I said before, it's really hard to beat a team again, and I think Michigan will be able to get it done, go into that national championship game in what could be a very fun matchup of Michigan with the big men that are incredible, and Houston with a coach like Kelvin Sampson who needs to get that ring on his finger. Could be a very, very fun national championship matchup. Colin, I'll roll on over into your side of things. You've got UConn, Houston, and Arizona, Michigan. Where are you going to go with your Final Four matchups?
Yep, I'm gonna go Houston over UConn. Like I said, they're really well coached team. I love the defense that they play. So I think this game would be two really good coaches going up against each other, and it would be a really, really fun game to watch.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I'm going to go with Arizona. I think they're obviously one of the best teams in the country. All these teams that are in the Final Four, I think all the ones and two seeds are
Yeah.
really incredible this year. So I think they'll all be fun to watch. But I'm gonna go with Arizona here
Yeah,
in that matchup.
we were that close to having the exact same championship, even with picking 32 different games
Yeah.
throughout the first day, and then in 60 plus games total. We almost had the exact same championship. So you could tell who we're both feeling pretty confident in. Houston, of course, Michigan being there for you, almost making it. Like I said before, Arizona very easily could win the entire thing. So I just had the upset in this certain bracket, and I think Arkansas could pull that. But Arizona's so good they could easily be here. Going into that national championship game, we both have representation from one team. I would hate to break Houston fans' hearts twice, but I'm going to be going Michigan here. I don't know what you're going to do. I do think the Michigan Wolverines are a team that can win a national championship. Houston, man, would that hurt if you were a fan of this team to be in the national championship 2 years in a row and just fall short. But I think the shortcomings that they have worry me just a little bit. I think the big men from Michigan are so, so good. They play more of a team ball type of game than anybody. There is not one superstar that just has to take over a game for them to win. Yaxel Lindenborg would be the best player on that team, but again, I don't think he has to take over for them to win a game. And I'm going to have the Michigan Wolverines winning a national championship here. Again, incredible start to Dusty May's career there. He gets it done and gets a ring on his finger. Makes Michigan fans very happy around the world. I could see a lot of those guys end up going to the NBA after this season. He might have a complete rebuild next year. But again, they're going to be able to do that with a championship, and I think that they are good enough to get it done. I'm going to go with points in the game. Houston, a very, very good defensive team. I think that they're going to hold Michigan to under 70 points or maybe right at 70 points, but I don't see Houston scoring a ton of points on Michigan. Their defense is also very good. So give me like a 128 total score, or let's say I'm gonna go up a little bit, go 134. I think that again, two teams that are able to hold themselves into relative scoring distance. I think it'll be a nice, fun championship matchup if we get it. But I think Michigan is just too good, and they get it done against Houston. Colin, it is your turn to break their hearts yet again, or give them some hope. Who you got? Arizona, Houston.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Arizona with this one. They played in the regular season. Arizona won. They played in the tournament. Arizona won. So I've got to go with Arizona again. I just think they're too good of a team
Yeah.
to lose to Houston. Like I said, they've already beat them twice. So I could see them doing it again. Although the stakes would be much higher in this
Yeah.
game than any regular season or honestly Big 12 tournament game. And then for the total points, it was 140 and 155, so I'm gonna go right in the middle, 147 on this one.
Yep.
Like I said, Houston's a really good defensive team, but uh, honestly, fairly high scoring games for
Yep.
both of those two, being that it's such a good defensive team from Houston. So I think Arizona's got them figured out. So I'm gonna go Arizona.
Yep, and the same argument could be made that beating them twice might have taught Houston things and
Yeah.
given them a chance. But again, I only have Arizona getting upset earlier because I trust Arkansas so much. I trust Cal so much, but very easily could this happen. Arizona's such a talented team. They very easily could end up in this championship game and winning it. They are so talented. Braden Burries, of course, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot after clutch shot. Koa Pete going to end up being a high NBA draft pick. There's just so much talent on that team. Tommy Lloyd getting that championship would be a big thing for the Arizona program that already has so much talent. Only more players would want to play for him if he gets it done. There you have it. We've got our champions. I've got Michigan. Colin's got Arizona. We gave you a breakdown of every single game. We'll come back and talk about it when we get to the Sweet 16 after we see these matchups. And heck, we might make our second chance brackets because we all know they're going to be busted by the time we get to there. This the Sweet 16. There'll be plenty of red spots on the map there. We won't pick anything close to right probably. Probably the way we pick things, Houston will lose in the second round or something since we both have them playing the championship game. But again, going to be a really fun March Madness. I think the Cinderella, the slipper could return. Someone could put it on and get back into the Sweet 16 as a double-digit seed. But we will see. Top end teams in college basketball are as good as they've ever been. So should be really fun. Colin, if you got anything else you want to add, time is now.
Yeah, when if my bracket's perfect, you better split the money with me, is all I got to
Yes.
say.
Yes, I don't think Warren Buffett's offering the $1 billion anymore, but if the bracket is perfect, ESPN when they dish it out, we will absolutely have to get you most of that money with the perfect picks there. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you guys when we see you guys. Mock drafts, check out those. They're going to show up on the channel up until the NFL draft happens, and of course, other content will come out when the season happens. Baseball, we're both baseball guys. So we may even talk about that when that time rolls around. But we've had a ton of fun filming the podcast, and this was another good episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, like I said, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.